I think what's happened is we've reached kind of peak debt and peak money printing as a solution to our problems. In the early days, growing debt and printing money allowed for additional growth, and there was some inflation, but you could get by. And we've now reached that point in time at which the supply, the growth in the money supply has almost gone vertical. And there's a chart that will be posted with this interview about the M2 chart, and it just shows how, as an example, in the GFC, we printed $3 trillion plus, and it took 3 or 4 years to do it. I mean, now we printed $3 trillion plus, and we did it in 3 months. And that's an accelerating rate of growth. And so I would suggest that because that second derivative is going up so quickly, the next one's going to cost $10 trillion and then larger and larger and larger. And this is how inflations, which could become hyperinflation, get started. And so it's terribly unfortunate. It's going to be very painful, I think, for a lot of people. That's the bad news. There is actually a silver lining here and good news, and that is the system that's broken needs to be reset. And so I think that these things will drive a reset. And I think a reset will lead to a return to sound money, and I think that will be a better system. So it's not all bad news.
But is there anything that the Fed can do at this stage to turn this around?
I think it's checkmate. I think they're in a lot of trouble. I mean, let's review the history of it, though. I mean, Paul Volcker, and we had the same thing going on in the 70s. Gold had gone from 35 to 80, and Paul Volcker took the interest rates to 20%. Okay? I mean, in theory, the way you do it is you create very large positive real interest rates, where the rate of interest on your savings is higher than the inflation rate, and you can kill inflation. The question is there the political will and the political constellation to allow that to happen? I mean, can you imagine what 20% interest rates would do to the world? I mean, most of the world.
It would be great for my savings.
Yeah, well, it would be great for your savings, it would be great for my savings, it would be great for retirees who have saved up capital, which has been getting a 0% interest rate. But it would be terrible. I mean, most of the world would croak. I mean, we would have a depression of, to beat the 30s, I think. And so I think the political will to return the money to a sounder basis is lacking. Now, maybe they're going to find it. I mean, the one thing I do say is if the government were suddenly to say, we're going to get out of all these overseas bases, we're going to cut defense spending, we're going to means test Social Security, we're going to means test Medicare, we're going to cut back on welfare, we're going to get responsible. If the U.S. government were to say that, that would not be positive for the sound money camp, of which I'm a big part of. But, I ask everybody listening to this, what are the odds the government's going to do that as it's currently constituted? I mean, we've got Stephanie Kelton advising Biden to print more money.
And one of the premises of MMT will hinge on the fact that the U.S. is the global reserve currency.
Exactly.
Do you see other nations starting to lose faith in the U.S. dollar?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, you see it everywhere. So, Russia sold all the treasury bonds. The Chinese treasury bond, I read it this morning, the Chinese T-bond level is as low, it hasn't been this low since 2010. They haven't been buying anything new. They've been letting the old ones run off. China and Russia have both started immediately. I mean, Russia takes dollars for some of the oil they sell. They immediately convert it into gold. Okay, China has started to price oil in yuan. They've got the Saudis taking yuan. I mean, part of what made the dollar so powerful was the petrodollar, and the fact that we provided the Saudi security in exchange for them taking only dollars. But that's going away. The Russians have agreed and the Chinese have agreed to help the Saudis with their security issues. So yeah, there are signs. Look, the U.S. empire, sadly, the U.S. empire is leaking. It's like a leaky boat. Now, how quick is it going to sink? I don't know. I mean, but it's not. It doesn't look great.
From an investment perspective,
happy to answer that.
What can an individual do to protect his or her portfolio?
Well, first off, let's talk first principles. Bonds are the worst investment in the world right now by a huge measure because they're going to lose their purchasing power. So it's a very easy call to get rid of all your bonds, in my opinion. Okay. From there, I think you start thinking about what are sound money alternatives. Obviously, some people have chosen housing. It's not crazy. I mean, houses will retain their value. You can live in them. I then go to gold and silver coins. I specialize in picking gold and silver mining stocks and have done okay with that. And then I think Bitcoin is an emerging form of sound money that's very important as well. And millennials love it. And I like it too. I'm a very big Bitcoin fan. But I think, you need to move some of your assets into something that provides you with inflation protection. That's, I think, the most important thing.
You're one of the unusual people at a conference like that advocates for both gold and Bitcoin. Yeah. How would you allocate that in your portfolio?
So I think this really depends on everybody's point of view, where they are on the risk curve, okay? I mean, gold is sound, fabulous, 5,000-year-old money. And gold, I don't think it's ever in a year gone down much more than 20 or 30%. So it's, it's the base, okay? It's the absolute base. It's not going away. 6 billion people know that it's money, okay? And I love gold. I've always loved gold and always will. Having said that, this Bitcoin thing has come along, and it's in some respects, it's got advantages over gold. Not in every respect, but in some it has advantages over gold. And as a result of that, and it's also got an adoption curve going on where it's being picked up and used more heavily, and that's forcing its price to go up. So, I think to everybody, it's a personal decision. I mean, the only thing I would advise, I think anybody who's 100% Bitcoin is crazy, and I think anybody who's 100% gold is crazy. So let's say the two boundaries are 90-10, 90-10.
Right.
Then you decide. To me, gold is like what a bond used to be. It's safe, it's boring, it's not going to go up as fast as Bitcoin, but it's not going to have an 85% drawdown. I mean, one of the things that bothers me about some of the Bitcoin people who advocate it is I'm not sure the people they're trying to sell it to understand how volatile it is. And I mean, I have people that I know who in 2017 bought it at $17,000. Fine, they'd be okay today, but it went down to $3,500. And of course, they probably thought, well, hey, this is stupid. And they blew it out, which of course is the wrong thing to do. But my point is, not everybody can handle that volatility. And so I think everybody has to pick where they want to be on the curve, right, of risk versus reward.
Before we continue, help us clicking that YouTube like button and subscribe now to our channel. This shows the algorithm that you valued this information. And it helps us spread that message. Sharing is caring. And now, let's continue.
But you advocate for having both gold and Bitcoin
Absolutely.
in your portfolio.
Absolutely.
No need to choose, and a buy and hold strategy for
Absolutely, both.
All right. Well, there has been a big watershed moment in
Yes.
the world of Bitcoin. Yes.
Yeah,
the
today.
first Bitcoin ETF.
This is huge.
Yeah. The ProShares Bitcoin ETF launching. It's one of several that are expected to get SEC regulatory approval. What does this mean for the price of Bitcoin?
I think it's a big positive, and I think at a number of different levels, and I know we're going to talk about manipulation here in a moment, but I think on balance it's a huge positive, because I know one of the fears that a lot of gold people have had about Bitcoin is, hey, the government's going to regulate, eliminate, tax, come after this stuff, and they just approved an ETF. I mean, that's kind of a vote of we accept it as an investment, right?
So the Bitcoin ETF, in your mind, now eliminates the existential crisis that Bitcoin could be outlawed?
Not entirely, but it surely reduces it. And you're seeing just more and more. I mean, we've got Senator Loomis who's supporting it. We're seeing more and more people. Gary Gensler, who's the head of the SEC, he taught a Bitcoin class at MIT. He says, look, he's a Bitcoiner. He just says, I want to make sure that we regulate it so that it's fair. And I mean, that's good. If regulation arguably will be a positive for Bitcoin, because institutions will be able to go, hey, this is regulated, we get it. Now we can do it. I mean, they couldn't do it before. So yes, I mean, the existential total Bitcoin goes away threat, I think that's very much reduced as a result of the ETF. The existing dollar will be dead in 10 years time, in my opinion.
The existing dollar will be
This
dead
dollar will be
in
completely,
10
it'll be
years' time.
completely worthless.
In a decade's time.
In a decade's time. It'll be just like the Weimar, it'll be we won't have wheelbarrows because we're not printing it. It's just digits. So it's
And
easier
it won't be replaced by another
Well,
fiat currency.
no. There may be another fiat they try after that, and maybe they'll probably try some silly stuff that'll fail too. I mean, because what will happen is eventually, once you've lost people's trust on the currency, people aren't stupid, and I mean, that's why they're buying these houses now, right? People are going to say, hey, why should I take this paper? I mean, what backs it up? I mean, in the Bitcoin case, it's backed up by a limited size ledger. Okay,
Right.
Immutable ledger. In the gold case, it's backed up by the fact that the supply only grows at 1.7% a year, right? So when it fails, it fails. That's it. It's game over.
So a decade till the end of the dollar as we know it.
Within a decade, this monetary system will have failed, in my opinion. This is just an opinion. It's a guesstimate. I could be dead ass wrong. I've been wrong a lot. Okay.
Well, at least you admit it.
But
there are a lot of reasons to see why you could be right.
Wrong,
Yeah.
I've been wrong a lot, but I do think it's a scenario that needs to be considered.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of investors are sitting there saying, hey, we've had 40 years of deflation. We're going to go back to deflation. Not so fast. I mean, in my opinion, we've really turned a corner.
Let's get your outlook on Bitcoin then. 12-month outlook on Bitcoin.
12 months, Bitcoin will be north of 150 for sure.
For sure. All right.
I feel strongly about that. And then 5 years on Bitcoin, somewhere between 500,000 and 2 million. It'll be very, Bitcoin is hitting that inflection point in the curve. Malcolm Gladwell's inflection point, tipping point. Bitcoin adoption appears to be about 10%. And you look at all these other innovations, and there's a chart. You look at all these other innovations and how they get adopted, and kind of when they hit that 10% level, tend to accelerate. Cell phones, the internet, whatever it might be. And Bitcoin reminds me a lot of the internet. And so when you hit that tipping point, things tend to get going quicker. And I think that's a lot of what's driving Bitcoin, is just the acceptance of it.
Do you see the adoption curve for Bitcoin necessarily taking away from institutional interest in gold?
Absolutely, absolutely. There's no doubt. But they can both win, and they will both win. I mean, there's look, Bitcoin competes with gold, and I see it, I admit it, it's obvious, but they're different. They each play a slightly different role. I mean, it's
And to be clear, you regard Bitcoin as unique and differentiate that from other cryptocurrencies?
Very much so. Very much so. I'm very negative on other cryptocurrencies. I mean, I think there will be some very important cryptocurrencies developed. I think Ethereum, as an example, is going to be a great layer 3. I think there are other projects that are being done that will change the world. They're very important, but when it comes to the store of value network effect, Bitcoin's like far and away, it's the only game. So to me, Bitcoin really is digital gold. And there's a place in the world for digital gold, but you know what? There's a place in the world for physical gold too. And so they will coexist, and there'll be some ratio, and maybe over time Bitcoin will be the bigger part of that ratio. But for now, we're still in the early days. I mean, we've got 450 trillion looking at 7, right? They're both going to go up. Okay, so gold people should not despair. Gold's going to go up a lot. Bitcoin's going to go up a lot too. They're both going to go up, because it's the people who should despair are the people who own bonds, right? Or even arguably stocks. I mean, I think stocks will get hurt too.
What to do in such a situation? Inform yourself and keep your financial education strong. We from the Compact Group offer our loyal subscribers a free educational portal with first-hand monetary, financial, and economic knowledge. Enter our invite-only Insider Club by clicking the link below. You will get access to first-class information far earlier than the rest. We have prepared a special deal for all our members, where you can access a giant pool of Robert Kiyosaki's financial wisdom for just $1. To find out more, simply click the link below and join our Insider Club absolutely free. But there is more you can and should do. Build up several streams of income. More and more people realize that they have to take their future in their own hands, but they don't know how and where to start. We from Compact offer our Insider Club members unique opportunities. Strengthen your financial muscle and get the edge. Click the link below. Become part of our free Insider Club. No financial obligations. But there's one important thing you have to know. You have to become active. So do it now. Become active, and see you on the other side.